So welcome once more in the name of the 6 European Trade Union Federations, which we launched today our European-wide youth campaign. And I just mentioned the 6 European Trade Union Federations which are jointly behind this youth campaign. Maybe you mentioned it in Greek. It's the EFBWW, EFAT, EPSU, ETF, Industrial and Unia Europa.
Θέλω να σας καλωσορίσει στη συνέντευξη τύπου με την ευκαιρία της καμπάνιας που ξεκινάει σήμερα από τη Europa, την νεολαία της Europa, στη συνεργασία με τις 6 ομοσπονδίες οι οποίες συμμετέχουν σε όλες αυτές τις διαδικασίες.
We would like to start with a video which we have prepared for today to explain our youth campaign and what are our demands and what is behind it. And I would then give the floor to the colleagues to say a little bit something about the content and what is planned about this campaign.
Θα ξεκινήσουμε με ένα βίντεο που θα προβάλλει τα αιτήματα αυτής της καμπάνιας σε λεπτομέρειες και μετά θα ακολουθήσει μία παρουσίαση και μετά θα ακολουθήσουν ερωτήσεις από εσάς. Ευχαριστώ πολύ.
People say youth are the future, but what kind of future are they leading us to? Young people are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than adults. In some European countries, 1 in 2 young people is unemployed. Young workers suffer more than any other age group from the crisis. They are paying the price for plugging the massive holes in public finances that are the result of rescue measures for banks and the euro. Austerity measures are being used to systematically dismantle the welfare state, widening the gap between the top and bottom of our societies, making the rich even richer and pushing the majority into poverty. Europe's public administration was the first victim of austerity measures. Beside huge financial cuts, they simply stopped hiring new young workers. The result is that 100,000 jobs for young workers have been lost since 2008. Young people, often highly educated, are forced into emigration and accept precarious jobs in foreign countries in order to survive. But without young workers, recovery from the crisis will be impossible in these countries, jeopardizing any prospect to overcome the consequences of austerity even in the long term. Faced with this reality, the European Union is trying to tackle youth unemployment with the creation of the Youth Guarantee. This is a measure to ensure all young people under 25 get a good quality, concrete offer within 4 months of leaving formal education or becoming unemployed. The trade union movement assesses it as too little, too late, and too narrow to be effective. If the EU can spend over 160 billion euros on saving failing financial institutions, then it should invest more than 8 billion on its next generation of workers. The crisis is not over yet. More unjustified and short-sighted austerity measures are in the pipeline. For all these reasons, 6 sectoral European trade union federations representing over 30 million workers across the continent have joined forces to reclaim the future that the crisis has stolen from us.
Young people need more and better jobs, and they have to come with fair pay and decent conditions.
Enough of the lack of opportunities. Youth mobility in the EU ensures another necessity to find work. Even for precarious work, they open the case of young workers as a source of cheap temporary pleasure, initiating interaction, attraction, taking back the right to listen education, a key factor for better employment prospects and for Europe's future.
We are taking back the right to collective bargaining to ensure that agreements contain provision that reflects the needs of young workers.
We're taking back the investment in skills so that young people can address the radical changes that will transform Europe's economies and societies.
We take back our future. With secure and quality jobs we can live from, and with a social security system
that we can rely on.
It's their crisis, but our future.
It's their crisis, but our future.
It's their crisis, but our future. We take back our future. Take back our future. Take back our future.
Take back our future.
Ας πάρουμε πίσω το μέλλον. Και στις κρίσεις ενωμένες.
Take back our future together.
And I would just pass over maybe to Dominique to say a few words about the campaign. What do you have planned?
So the first thing to note, I think, is the timing of this campaign. We're coming up to the European elections in May, and we simply don't believe that the European institutions have done enough to rescue young workers from the effects of the crisis. And this needs to be a key debate topic in the lead up to the elections and a key agenda item of the new MEPs of the European Parliament and the new commissioners. And that's why we're demanding these things now. And we hope that all of our members will similarly raise these issues with the candidates when they're deciding who to vote for, and we will also raise all of these things with the new Commission and the new parliamentarians when they're sitting later on in the year. I think now we can probably give some more detail about the 8 demands that we talk about in the video. The one that I mentioned is particularly relevant to FAT sectors, where the Federation for Food, Agriculture and Tourism. And in food and drink manufacturing in particular, we found that these sectors are going to face a huge crisis in 10 years or 15 years if they don't employ more young workers. Food and drink manufacturing is the biggest manufacturing sector in Europe in terms of both employment and turnover, but it's facing an impending crisis if it doesn't upscale the quality of jobs to make them more attractive to young people. Eurofound, a study, an institute body last year found that 39% of employers couldn't find the right people for their jobs. So we have a problem on the one hand, employers can't find workers and workers can't find jobs. This is a huge problem and it's going to put Europe's potential for innovation and for competition at stake. So I might pass on now to the others to talk about the demands that they spoke about in the video.
Good morning everyone, my name is Koen Reinhardt from the European Transport Workers Federation. And we are doing this campaign also because unemployment among young people indeed is in Europe has risen to unseen levels because youth is being forced also to migrate in order to find a job. They are forced to accept working under precarious conditions, being abused in their rights and dignity. And we are well aware that the European institutions know the situation and understand the situation. Just last week, the Employment and Social Affairs Committee of the European Parliament adopted a resolution calling for a jobs and social recovery plan. In that same text, they also acknowledge that youth is in the front line of severe austerity measures imposed by the Troika. And of course, we welcome these initiatives, we welcome this resolution, but we all remain quite skeptical as well, because we keep hearing nice words that are not being materialized into effective measures and policies. The crisis is going on for several years now, and the measures taken by Europe so far, as for example mentioned in the video of youth guarantee, are just not changing the reality. And that reality is that youth unemployment keeps increasing, and job precarity keeps growing, and they don't seem to take it seriously enough. And if they don't take it seriously enough, if they fail to turn the situation right now, if they fail to implement effective measures and find sufficient resources to finance, they're not only throwing away the future of one generation of young people, they are throwing away the prospect of a future in Europe for all generations, all pay now.
My name is Pablo Sanchez and I am from the European Federation of Public Services Unions, which local is basically most of the affiliates of ATHENS. In the video shows very clearly that one of the main victims of the financial and economic crisis has been young workers, and more broadly public sector workers. There's been a huge transfer from public money into private banks and paying loans, paying debt that was clearly not caused by young workers. So basically this campaign is denouncing this situation where there is a group in society where we're not clearly, I mean, objectively not responsible for the financial crisis. They were not 15-year-olds were not speculating in the stock markets in 2003, 2004. Or maybe one or two. And yet, this is the very generation that is being taken all its rights away. And this is the main message. In the video kind of encapsulates this issue and the demand or the point that there's been far too much money spent on saving the banks and a system that actually has caused the social consequences that we see today, and not enough to actually give a future for the next and the future generations. And I'll just finish with this. I mean, the figure is there. I mean, is the number of jobs for those between 16 and 25, which is now a big group of people, that were, I mean, if you take all employment in the public sector in 2008 and you take it in 2012, there is 100,000 less people working of this group age. And the reduction is even bigger because the problem is that there is no more employment in several countries in the public sector, which in Europe, let's face it, is still a big employment pocket of job creation. I mean, we're talking about teachers, we're talking about people working in nurseries, we're talking about health workers, we're talking about, etc., teaching and teaching staff. Objectives is also to bring the demands of the trade unions at the European level to workplace activity, to young workers that are not yet in the unions, because it's becoming increasingly difficult for young people because of the working conditions, internships, working at home, working isolated, to actually defend their rights. So, and also to bring on the agenda, not just at the European political level, but also in our own national structures and local and regional and in the cities and in the villages where people is working, the issue of youth unemployment. So we want to be a bottom-up and a bottom-down campaign where everyone can actually be part of.
So maybe saying a few words about how the crisis and the austerity measures affect Unia Europa and what Unia Europa's point in this campaign are. We represent the service workers in Europe. We represent a whole range of workers, from hairdressers to postmen and security workers. And our main demand, of course, is that if we see job creation, if we see new jobs arising in the service industry, we want to have proper jobs. We want to have jobs young people can live from, and we want to have jobs they can plan for the future and have a proper life with family planning and social life. So I think that's important for us, and we see this demand not only something we can demand to politicians, but also to include in our policy. So one big part of our campaign has to be, we have to go also in our structures, we have to go also in the trade unions, make them more attractive for young people, change the image, make the unions young, and give people also a voice in the trade unions. And I would like now also to pass over to Oliver Röting, to our regional secretary from Unia Europa, and we are very happy that he's here, and like this gives us also a sign that this is not only a topic for the youth structures in the European Trade Union Federations, but that we have the full backup of the whole structures, of the whole general secretaries, of the whole structure in Europe of the trade union family, and we will work together to make this campaign work.
Ο κύριος Όλιβερ είναι περιφερειακός γραμματέας της Uni Europa.
Thank you very much. and I would follow up what Cornelia said. This is an initiative, a campaign by the entire group of European trade union federations. It's not a youth campaign that takes center stage. Our campaign as European trade unions to change the world we are in, to overcome the crisis. In our slogan, enough of their crisis, back to our future. That our future does not only stand for youth, it stands for the future of everyone. We have to work together that youth unemployment is combated. We have to stop that people leave their countries because they can't find jobs here. Being here in Greece today, let me also say something about the situation here. It has been the worst in Europe. We have seen the social fabric of this society very much shattered. We have youth unemployment which is incredibly high. And the main case of this is the approach of the European Union and in particular the Troika. It's totally unacceptable. We have just recently at European level published a study in the trade union movement saying that the Troika doesn't have any democratic legitimacy and is actually acting illegally. And I can only stress it. What the Troika is doing is similar to a mugger out in the street putting a gun on your chest and asking you nicely for your money. You don't have any other choice. That is what the Troika has been doing, and it has to be stopped. We have the European parliamentary election, and we have to send a clear message that the Troika has to be changed. We need investment. We have to take money into our hands from all over Europe to solve the crisis. Let me conclude with saying youth is our future, and we have to make sure, and that is our support of the entire European trade union movement, you have this youth campaign really take center stage in our campaign for a just and better Europe for the next European election and for the 5 years afterwards. We have to overcome the crisis with quality jobs for a quality society as quickly as possible.
We will have today in the afternoon at 3 o'clock a little action with our young people here in Greece and with our Uni Europa people, which are here as well. On which square? On the square where the
είναι εκεί που είναι το Δημαρχείο, όπως λέτε, πλατεία Κοτσιά, στις 3 η ώρα θα το.
Τι δράση?
Τι δράση ακριβώς θα είναι?
What's about the action? You have to say something.
Yeah, the action will be a flash mob. So we will organize a flash mob with our people and try to, in a kind of street theater way, to address the problem of unemployment among young people.
Έχει ειδική αναφορά στο θέμα της μετανάστευσης των νέων. Εμείς στην Ελλάδα το ζούμε πάρα πολύ έντονα. Οι πολύ μορφωμένοι άνθρωποι με πτυχία και μεταπτυχιακά μεταναστεύουν στο εξωτερικό, κυρίως σε χώρες της Ευρώπης, προκειμένου να ζητήσουν μια καλύτερη τύχη. Αλλά αναφέρθηκε ότι και από άλλες χώρες της Ευρώπης επίσης μεταναστεύουν. Μεταναστεύουν άρα προς χώρες της Ευρώπης για να βρουν δουλειά. Και ποιες είναι, ή και προς διυπηρωτικές χώρες, δηλαδή Αμερική, Ασία ενδεχομένως. Τι στοιχεία έχει η Union Europa?
It is basically, in the first place, from the crisis countries. You have Portugal, you have Spain, you have Greece, of course, you have Ireland. I mean, Ireland is an example where you had, just before the crisis, for the first time in 200 years, people were actually coming back to Ireland, and now they're leaving again. For the
One every 6 minutes leaves Ireland.
Pardon?
One person leaves Ireland every 6 minutes.
And when you look at one target zone where people are going is the north of Europe, and then you have Portugal, they go to Brazil, the Spanish, for instance, go to Latin America. It's basically where you have the same language, and the Irish, of course, still go in particular to America, and with the Greek colleagues, I think you have many people really going to northern Europe.
Έχουμε κάποια στοιχεία αριθμητικά.
500,000 young Greeks left last year. 500? Yeah, and a lot of them to reach family in countries that were previously...
How many people from Europe? Young people?
From Greece.
500?
Yeah.
We organize people in public authorities that to count people. I mean, usually census, national registries, and public institutions. And we as EPSO have a project on migration, which started several years ago, and it was more south to Europe migration, and now has turned into a project of where people are going in Europe. And the problem is that Europeans, when they travel within the EU, tend not to register anywhere. So there are estimates. The free circulations of both capitals and individuals in the European Union means that a person in Spain going to Germany can be there working for a year without telling anyone in Spain or in Germany. Except its employer, but its employer doesn't have to do it. So which poses a problem to actually give any concrete, serious estimate of the numbers of people moving across the European Union. But we have anecdotal evidence of the dynamics.
Αλλά έχουν μία έτσι αίσθηση της δυναμικής.
For instance, as what Oliver was saying, there is a clear, it's easier to count how many Europeans are leaving the EU going to third countries because they need a visa than to talk about internal EU numbers, because it's like just not possible. I'll just put two very brief examples to illustrate what I'm talking about.
Κάποια παραδείγματα έτσι σύντομα.
We have thousands, literally thousands of Slovak, Czech and Hungarian nurses.
Έχουν νοσοκόμες από τη Σλοβενία,
Czech, Slovak,
από την Ουγγαρία και την Τσεχία, νοσοκομές.
Traveling 50 kilometers to work in Austria and Germany.
Που κάνουν 50 χιλιόμετρα και δουλεύουν στην Αυστρία και στην Γερμανία, για παράδειγμα.
Where wages are 2 to 4 times higher than...
Που τα μεροκάματα εκεί, οι μισθοί, τα μεροκάματα είναι 4 φορές παραπάνω.
But there are no records of this. We know it because our union...
Το ξέρουμε, αλλά δεν μπορούμε να υπολογίσουμε.
So, what we know is the anecdotal evidence of being in the streets of Stockholm and listening people talking Greek, Spanish or Italian, which wasn't the case 6 years ago.
Το καταλάβατε, δηλαδή το καταλαβαίνουν και μόνοι δηλαδή στους δρόμους που ακούνε ανθρώπους που μιλάνε ελληνικά, που μιλάνε ισπανικά, που μιλάνε αυτές τις...
And just to finish, one of the issues of the campaign is mobility should be a choice, a well-informed personal choice, not a necessity to find a living for your family or to find a future for you. And this is a very important thing, because we're told that mobility is good, we're not against people, but it's not true that when you decide to move from one street to Athens to another, it's not the same thing when you decide to move from Athens to Hamburg.
If this campaign will consider any special goals about unemployment of young women, which is here in Greece, unemployment of women is really high.
Μίλησε για τα στοιχεία των γυναικών στην Ελλάδα είναι πολύ ψηλά ανεργίας των γυναικών.
I think we are aware of the fact that women have a special situation in unemployment, and we have to have a look how we address this best to the European institution and to the decision makers, that we ensure that the situation also for unemployed women can be better.
In that respect, we actually had yesterday talked with colleagues, female colleagues from Greece here, what we can do, and looking really at doing some more elaborate research for Southern Europe. What does it actually mean in terms of women's unemployment, and especially young women's unemployment? Because, as I said before, that is probably, especially here in Greece, the most outrageous number of all unemployment, because it's really the number of young women being out of work, and this has to be solved and tackled. And I'm always very frustrated with statistics saying the youth unemployment is in Greece, I don't know, 59%, 60%, and that is of course the average. Male unemployment is lower and female is higher, and I think we have to stress this difference quite enormously.
You're making this campaign, like you said, for the European elections. I want to ask what you expect from the results of these elections, and what is the position of the youth of the Union Europa in the fact that a lot of people in here, but I think in most of the countries, do not participate in this kind of elections. And what is the position of the Union Europa against neo-Nazism that looks to uprise and here, unfortunately, but generally?
Ο συνάδελφος ρώτησε ποια είναι, τι περιμένει η Union Europa, η Union από τις εκλογές και ποια είναι η θέση της Union, του συνδικάτου αυτού, για τους νεοναζί στην Ελλάδα αλλά και γενικότερα, έτσι, για τους νεοναζί.
I think what we are doing in the trade union federations on European level is we inform our people that actually the big majority of legislation which affects our daily life already comes from Europe. And if you want to be included, and if you want that your voice gets heard, and if you want that your interests are also take part in the European Union, then you have to vote in May at the European elections. And it's of course for us as trade union federations, I think, no question of informing our people and animate our people to vote for the EU, even though I know it's a very low percentage which actually votes for at the European elections. And regarding the right-wing parties, I mean, what we saw in the history was like, if people are organized, if people are informed, and if people are united, then the right-wing parties have actually not a big chance to give the wrong influence to young people.
Talking with the right wingers, normally they don't have a big program, they're just against. And it's easy to be against Europe at the moment because we don't think Europe does it in the right way. But it's not being against, but what we want with the youth campaign and with the trade union campaign here in Europe for this election, to change Europe, because we all need Europe and the crisis can only be overcome together. And that's what we have to do, and if we manage this, Golden Dawn and the others don't have any chance, because we actually can make a difference together.
Λοιπόν, θέλω να μας πούνε ποια είναι η δράση, πρακτικά ζητήματα, τι σκοπεύουν να κάνουν, εκτός από happening, συνεδριάσεις, συνελεύσεις, και ποιες είναι οι μορφές δράσης από εδώ και πέρα. Γιατί η καιρή είναι τελείως διαφορετική, η ενεργεία καλπάζει, ο φασισμός καλπάζει, οι νέοι φεύγουν από τις χώρες και από την πολιτική, τι μορφές δράσης έχουν προγραμματίσει να κάνουν, πώς θα παρέμβουν ως διεθνή οργάνωση.
Well, the whole idea is that we, with this campaign, indeed, as Cornelia already told, inform them as much as possible via all different channels about what is at stake. And we want to show that trade unions can really change things and that we really care about their issues and that we are relevant for young workers. And that's why we try to also involve them in what is going on now in European level and try to make them commit to vote for in May when we have the elections. And this way we try to by informing them and involving them in our actions, via listening to them and taking everything into account when doing our policies. When we go to European decision makers, we take these issues with us to address them, to table them. And this way we try to show them that it's important to be involved in this, to really be a part of something that can change something.
I just wanted to respond that I think it's a bit of a myth that young people aren't politically active. Maybe young people...
Πιστεύω ότι είναι ένας μύθος ότι οι νέοι είναι απολυτικοί.
Maybe they don't feel connected to the main political groups anymore, but we saw a couple of years ago how active young people were in the Occupy movement, in the Indignados movement in Spain, and so I think it's broad issues that young people identify with now rather than specific political groups. And I think this is one thing that trade unions need to recognise to ensure their future. Maybe young people don't identify with the trade union movement, the class warfare between the workers and the bourgeoisie, but maybe if trade unions can align their work to different political aims, as we do. We're very politically active in advocating for the right of water to not be privatised, which was a big EPSU campaign, the financial transactions tax, different political things that the trade unions align to. I think, and we have to do more of this when we discuss what can trade unions do in the future to make themselves more attractive to young people. But I think there is a lot of work to do to align trade unions to broader issues that young people do care about.